Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. 1 2 3. 1 2 3. 1 2 3. Testing. Testing 1 2 3. 1 2 3. 1 2 3. 1 2 3. Is it moving up? Testing 1 2 3. That'll probably be better. Cliff? Do a test.
I've been on the phone all day. Test, test. Higher? Well, a little bit. That's good. Do I need to be right into the microphone? Test, test, test. Okay.
Test 1 2. 1 2. 1 2 3 4. Testing 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. Okay. Testing 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. Testing 1 2. Good.
Right. So we need to get going. He's back there.
Good evening. My name is Laverne Kennemer, and I am honored to be the Rockwall County Republican Chair. Cliff Dawson and I are the only two people that know which questions are going to be asked. These questions were vetted by us, and we are totally in charge of them. I want to introduce you to Patty Maggio. She's Precinct Chair of 1B. And Cliff Dawson is your Precinct Chair in McLendon-Chisholm for the Republican Party. Also, I want to introduce John Beeman, who will be giving our prayer and pledges tonight. And I would also like to tell you that John Beeman is a Precinct Chair, and he is also unopposed in as a candidate for Heath City Council.
Please stand and join me in prayer. Father, we come before you this evening through the shed blood and resurrection of Jesus Christ, your Son. We pray that you would please bless all of us here tonight, the citizens, the candidates. We pray that you would bless this night so that we would speak truth and that your will would be done on earth as it is in heaven, that you would bless the candidates, and again, that you would bless the citizens as well. We thank you and praise you for all things, and we pray this in Christ's name. Amen. Amen. Please join me for the pledges. American flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Everybody, thanks for being here. We are going to begin the program tonight with a forum where we question the candidates for mayor. So I'd like to introduce, first of all, Mr. Keith Short and incumbent Mayor Robert Steinhagen. Gentlemen, each of you will have a opportunity to give a 2-minute introduction. We will start with Mayor Robert Steinhagen.
You good with no stand?
I'm fine. How are you?
Okay. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Republican Party. I appreciate the Republican Party of Rockwall County for holding this. For Mr. Dawson, thank you for moderating this. My name is Robert Steinhagen, and it has been a pleasure to serve as mayor of this wonderful city. I am married for 23 years to the same woman, Michelle, and I have a 10-year-old daughter who attends Dallas Christian School. We are members of Watermark Church in Dallas and helped start that church, and we really enjoy and we love McLendon-Chisholm. And the reason we do is because, and the thing that drew us to this city was the wide open spaces and the more rural lifestyle, to get away from the urban life that we had been living in Dallas. And that is why I ran for city council, and it's why I'm running again for mayor, to protect those wide open spaces, more rural lifestyle, to limit the size and scope of our city government. I am committed to limited government as a conservative and as a Republican because I believe that that's the best kind of government for us. I believe that most citizens just want to be left alone. They want government out of their back pocket, and they want to live freely. And that's what I have done as mayor, and that's what I plan to continue to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for McLendon-Chisholm allowing us to use this for the forum, for everybody else involved behind the scenes that's put this together. My name is Keith Short. I am the one individual running against Mayor Steinhagen for that position. A little bit about me. I'm married as well. Been married, I'm going to get in trouble for this, think we're going on 22 years now. I'll pay that price later. Have wonderful kids. We now have 4 granddaughters. God's teaching me something about patience. I don't get a grandson, I get granddaughters. So I'm still learning that lesson. A little bit about me. I served in our military. I'm very proud of being a Marine Corps veteran. Attained the rank of sergeant. Very proud of the things that I did. I'm a full-time police officer. My current assignment is a school resource officer. I enjoy working with kids. Didn't think that was going to be what I enjoyed. Came out of patrol this year, went into the schools. It's been the most enjoyable portion of my career in law enforcement right now. We have wonderful children out there in all our school districts. Some of them just occasionally make unique decisions that we have to get involved, but they are great kids. Enjoy that. I've worked with various individuals within our community. I've been part of the communities and a community servant because of my law enforcement career, because of being in the military. I've owned a business. I moved here when my last child left to go to college. My wife and I saw this area. It's beautiful. This is where I want to stay and I want to retire. But what I've seen over the last couple of years we've lived here is a disrespect for us as citizens. And that's why I'm running for mayor. I think we as the citizens are owed more respect than what we're getting out of our current government here in our city. Thank you very much for hearing from me.
Mayor Steinhagen, we will start with you. You'll have 2 minutes to respond to this question. What is your overall vision for the city of McLendon-Chisholm in the short and long terms?
Well, my vision is something that I've articulated again and again, to protect our wide open spaces and more rural lifestyle, to limit the size and scope of our city government. As I said in my introduction, I believe that most people want to live freely. They don't want government in their back pocket, and they want to be able to shoot off fireworks, for instance. They want to be able to enjoy and see stars at night. They want to be able to hear coyotes howl. These are things that you don't get in a typical city. What's great about McLendon-Chisholm is that we are right in the middle of so many opportunities, so many more urban areas where we have all of the amenities, but the unique country life that is McLendon-Chisholm. And my short and long-term vision is to ensure that our city and the people in it, that they're protected from a city government that wants to do things that it really should, that the people don't want them to do. And so that is ultimately it. Thank you.
Mr. Short?
Yes, sir.
Same question.
Okay.
Do you need me to repeat it?
Would you please, sir?
What is your overall vision for the city of McLendon-Chisholm in the short and long term?
Well, folks, that question being the short-term and the long-term vision of our city, first off, the short-term vision is to fix the problems that we're currently faced with, which is getting our public safety back in order. That's a short-term vision that I have. Long-term vision is going to be proper development and management of our city and our land, whether it's management of the businesses, developments coming in, all that. We have to manage our future. I've seen other cities that I've had the opportunity to live in that chose to push things away, and those cities started shriveling up when they had the opportunity to properly manage that growth and bring that growth in the way they saw fit. I understand and I agree with him. I love this look out here of our city, our rural lifestyle. But the thing is, everything's encroaching on us. And in time, most of this will not be a rural lifestyle anymore. But we as the citizens have a voice in that with our city council to manage that growth. We need to be able to manage it. We had over 4,000 acres in our ETJ. That was our future. That's part of our future as a city, a huge chunk of it that was given away. We could have properly managed that over time. Now, we're left to hopefully Rockwall will manage it correctly and not put some of those fears of what could end up there in our own backyard. So we need to fix our current issues, and then we need to plan a vision for our future, which is proper development of our businesses and our residential neighborhoods. Thank you. Okay, sorry. I apologize, I'm just a little nervous.
So, Mr. Short, the next question will go to you, and hopefully this won't be too redundant, but
Yes, sir.
some of your responses are already getting into some areas that we're going to be covering tonight. So,
Yes, sir.
my question is, what is your philosophy relating to the scope of city government from McLendon-Chisholm with respect to services and amenities provided by the city and the amount of regulation to be imposed on its citizens?
You said the scope of services?
Yes,
Okay.
and amenities.
And amenities. Well, folks, when it comes to the scope of service and the amenities that our city has to offer, you know, we all pay taxes. I'm just like every one of you. I don't want to pay any more than I have to. I'm just like any other person out here. I'm your everyday average American. I think we pay too much as it is, but that's just my own personal opinion. I don't agree with any form of government that tries to censor or keep us from voicing our opinion in what we need. We, the people, deserve to be heard. That's what our government was formed on. They're supposed to be our representatives. I feel that the way our city is going right now and some of the things that are happening is we don't have the amenities to offer for the amount of money we pay in taxes. And in the process of that, we're also starting to become censored by our own city council or our own government in McLendon-Chisholm, and they're taking things away from us that they shouldn't. Each and every one of us has a right to an opinion. Now, once you take that opinion to a point of saying something very threatening towards an individual, that's wrong. When you start using profanity, things like that, that's wrong. But the sheer fact of having an opinion to be heard by our city council is very important. Right now, some of those things are being taken away from us. You know, that to me is our government overstepping and taking away from us. Their scope of responsibility is they're taking away from us when they should be listening to us. Thank you.
Can you ask that question one more time?
sure. What is your philosophy relating to the scope of city government from McLendon-Chisholm with respect to the services that should be offered, any amenities that should be provided, and the amount of regulation to be imposed on its citizens?
Yeah, you know, what's so laughable about what Mr. Short just said is how different our city government is today. When I was a citizen and standing up before, and Wayne Orchard as well experienced this, standing up before the city council, we were limited to 3 minutes. And if we didn't speak about the things that were on the agenda, we would be stopped and said, you can't talk anymore. Now that's different now. Since I've become mayor, I don't limit what people can say. I don't limit them in their time or content. So this idea that people are censored is laughable. It's an impression that is concocted out of whole cloth. Now, as far as what the future of our city is as far as the scope of some of the businesses and things, well, that's for the people to decide. See, that's another thing that Mr. Short fails to recognize is that since being elected 2 years ago, for the very first time, the voice of the people has been heard like never before. We have had 2 citizen surveys that ensure that the voice of the people is heard. And we've asked that question about business. And what the people of McLendon-Chisholm have said in those surveys is that they do want to see businesses. They just don't want to see some of the big box stores. They don't want to see the things that will, if they go out of business, will leave blight on our city. They want to see mom and pop type businesses, the restaurants that are unique, that make McLendon-Chisholm kind of a destination rather than just another place to go and shop. So as far as scope goes, the people of McLendon-Chisholm guide that. Thank you.
Mayor Steinhagen, why do you believe you're the best candidate for mayor? And what I would like to hear are specifics from your professional background that uniquely qualify you for the position you're seeking.
Well, I think my track record speaks for itself. Everything that I have said when I was running for office 2 years ago, I have done, except for one. I've only missed one of those promises. But as far as all of the others, we have ensured, we have protected our city's wide open spaces. We have actually held firm to our standard of 1.5 acre minimum per home site. The very first meeting that Wayne Orchard and I participated in as members of City Council was a development that wanted to put in higher density houses rather than the 1.5, and we said no. We have actually taught developers how to treat us, and it was a little bit of a fight in there, but we held our ground. That same developer, by the way, is going to be building a development right across the street here. And you know what they're going to be putting in? 1.5 acre tract homes. Or not tract homes, but 1.5 acre homes. Because we've held our ground. Now, what I failed to do is something that the citizens in the city survey said they wanted to see, is to sell the city hall. And I had a lot of interest. I actually, even the state of Texas, I proposed that maybe this could be a Department of Public Safety headquarters. But it was all good and well and good until we saw the appraised value of our city hall. The city hall, the brick was donated. Apparently, we got the roof, the flooring, and the cabinetry all for half price, and the furniture 25 cents on the dollar. And yet it cost us $2.125 million to build. And it's appraised now for $800,000. It's very hard to sell anybody on a building that is not worth near what we paid for it. We brought fiscal integrity back to the City Hall. Thank you.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, if you would, sir.
Why do you believe that you're the best candidate for mayor? And please provide specifics from your personal or your professional background that would uniquely qualify you for the position you are seeking.
Okay. All right. I'm going to answer the same question that Mayor Steinhagen answered, and I'm going to start it with something that is very important to me and something I said in one of the previous questions. You know, as far as my experience as a mayor, I have zero. And I want you to understand that right now. I have zero. Okay? But what I do have is a love for my community. I was taught some of the most top-notch, excellent leadership skills in the world in the United States Marine Corps as a sergeant. Okay? Some of the finest leaders in the world have been taught by Marines, or they are currently former retired Marines. Okay? So I've been taught leadership skills there. I'm a public servant. Okay? So I deal with the public on a daily basis, and I enjoy working with them. One of the things that I do bring to the table to possibly be your next mayor is I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen to you. That's paramount to running a good government, okay? Listening to what you have to say and not making fun of you. I'm not going to sit here and insult this man. I said when I began to start this race, I was going to operate with honor and integrity. That means I'm not going to bash him. That's one of the attributes I bring to the race as your possible future mayor, is I'm not going to tell you that the things he says are laughable. I'm going to treat you with respect when you have something to say. And I would expect the same thing from you to me. We have the ability to disagree, and still be friends and still be members of our community. And I think with that philosophy in my heart and what I was taught in being a leader, there's no reason why I couldn't make a good candidate for mayor. Thank you. I'm not used to the back and forth. Yes, sir.
Okay, this next question or series of questions, it gets into the weeds a little bit. And,
Okay.
So if you need me to repeat anything, I will.
Probably.
And forgive me, for any redundancy, because I know
Yes,
that
sir.
y'all have already touched on some of these topics, but we're going to get a little more detail. This afternoon, I did just a real quick cursory review of the city of McLendon-Chisholm's zoning ordinance,
Okay.
and found that for areas that are zoned single family, the minimum requirement are lot sizes that can range anywhere from 1.5 acres up to 5 acres, just depending on which type zoning it is.
For going future, or are you saying?
Currently, that's
Okay,
what it
okay.
currently is. And then I also found in the zoning map and in the zoning ordinance, there are large sections of the city that are zoned PD, planned development. And my understanding or my interpretation of the zoning ordinance, especially as it relates to the PD, planned development zoning, and if you have a different interpretation, feel free to correct me.
Sure.
It's my understanding that in that zoning district, a developer can come and they can propose a development that would have a single-family lot density that would be less than the 1.5 acre minimum, for example.
Yes, sir.
And the city council can approve that, and it's perfectly legitimate, and, no harm, no foul. My question would be this. Number one, do you support the current zoning densities that are required in the single-family zoning that currently exist? 1.5 acres up to 5 acres. Would you keep that exactly as it is? And if not, what minimum zoning would you propose? And then as it relates to the PD, where you can do anything you want, provided it's approved by the city council, would you adhere to that 1.5 acre minimum, or would you propose something less than that? And what might it be?
Yes, sir.
No.
No. That's what I was thinking.
5-minute question, 2-minute answer.
So it's kind of two questions rolled
Right.
into one.
Right.
All
I'm going
right.
to give you some latitude here.
Yes, sir. In the question, of our standard right now is 1.5 acres on up, you said, to 5. Okay, but in the PD or the planned developments, it could be substantially less. My feeling on it right now is the same thing I said about myself and one of the attributes I bring. It's not my decision to make. It is a decision that it needs to be brought before the people. The citizens are the ones that have to make that determination. We are the voice of the people. As a possible elected official, I have to listen to what they have to say and then formulate the best decision, or for lack of a better example, the best bang for the citizen's buck. It's one of those things is, I would love to have everybody to have 10-acre tracts. I grew up on a ranch. But the reality is, for our city to survive, there may have to be some leadway in there. But that's going to be up to what the citizens are saying they want, and what we listen to them and let their voices be heard on that. So I can't tell you what I would believe, because it's not a decision for me to make. The decision is based on the best needs for the citizens and what they tell us they want to have. We've heard this throughout, our past forum, through things that go on with our city hall and our different city council meetings and all that, there's a silent majority. There's a vocal minority. You know what? We're all citizens of this city. To answer that question is based on what the people's needs are and what the people say they want. And then we have to make a decision based on that. Would I entertain the possibility of it varying from 1.5 acres to 5 acres down to something else? If the citizens dictate that that's what they want to look at, absolutely, because I'm listening to what they have to say. Thank you.
No, you're good. Well, hey, we found something we agree on, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm serious. And there is no, there's no animosity between us. I mean, we're charging forward. We have our opinions, and discord is a positive thing. So I appreciate what you just said, because I agree completely. That's why over the last 2 citizen surveys, the first citizen survey we asked, how important is the 1.5 acre minimum per home site standard to you? And among all the questions, that was the one thing that the citizens said overwhelmingly, that is something you need to protect. So this last citizen survey, because I had a developer in here who would kind of like to do 1 acre tracts. I live on a 1 acre tract. Now, how did that happen? I'm in a development that was built several years ago. I think the standard back when it was built was 2 acres, but I'm not sure. It was at least 1.5 acres, but we've got 1 acre tracts. I'm not sure how that happened, but it did. And I like my community. So on this last citizen survey, we asked, do you like 1.5 acre? Would you be willing to go down to 1 acre tracts? And overwhelmingly, the people rejected that idea. So do I support the current standard? Yes. And would I defend it? Absolutely. Until the citizens, like Keith says, Mr. Short says, excuse me, like he says, I mean, the people really do have to give us that thumbs up. Now, as far as the district, the PDs, it's a little sticky wicket. So I'm going to speak a little cryptically, because you have to understand that, yes, those PDs are there. They are there to protect our city. And for a PD, for them to go with higher density, they would have to establish sanitation like Sonoma Verde did. And I'll just put it this way, it will probably never happen. So thank you.
Kind of keeping with the same theme regarding zoning, and hopefully this won't take quite as long, are you in favor of multifamily development in McLendon-Chisholm? And if so, what type of multifamily development would you support? For example, duplexes, fourplexes, or perhaps something larger like a traditional multifamily garden-style apartment complex?
Until the people say that's what they want, no.
Same question. Do you need me to repeat it?
No, I perfectly understand the question here. I'm loosening up a little bit. That question, I'm going to tell you folks, like he said, we can agree on some things, okay? And I agree with him in this case. It's you as a citizens, it's your decision brought before your mayor and your city council. And if that's what you ask for, then it needs to be looked at properly to bring in the right type of development. I'm not a fan of it, but you got to understand something. With me, it's because I see the negative side to it. Being a law enforcement officer, I see some of the issues associated with it. So it's hard to really ask me a question like that, because I don't want to say I have a tainted view, but I see the negative aspect of those type of developments, and it has to be managed very carefully. I do agree with him. If the citizens ask, it needs to be looked at. But if you're asking me personally, I don't think it's a wise decision for you and me as a community. Thank you.
And Mr. Short, this question, it's still kind of talks about development and so forth, and I've just, from my own experience, reading social media and so forth, I've seen a lot of folks talk about the need or the desire for commercial development out here. Mm-hmm. And recognizing that a lot of commercial development is really market-driven. If market forces don't make it feasible, they're not going to come no matter what you do.
Right.
But if elected, would you encourage the expansion of commercial development in the city? And if yes, what types of commercial development would be of priority to you?
Okay. Would I encourage it if I was elected? Yes, I would. One of the things that we touched on in the very beginning, both the mayor and myself, was taxes. Okay. We can all be in agreement that we don't want to have to pay any more than we need to. Well, right now, the citizens in the community here bear the burden for the majority of our taxes that come into our city. Well-managed business development will help properly balance and ease some of that tax burden on us as a community. And I say us because if I am elected, I'm still a member of this community. So it is us. It affects all of us, just as it would affect the current mayor. So the proper management of business development, yes. I also understand, and I've learned this from my time as a law enforcement officer, when you talk about some commercial developments, they'll look at us and go, we're not even going to talk to you guys. You're not a big enough population. Won't even give us the consideration of just asking them what it takes. No, you're not big enough. So it's finding the right businesses that, one, our citizens agree with and say these are the things we need, because we have to listen to them. We don't want to put 7-Eleven on every street corner. Is what they want, then operate on what can we get. Nobody wants empty buildings. He's even alluded to that. I'm in agreement with that. Nobody wants the business here today, gone tomorrow. We want them here today and tomorrow. So it's proper business development based on who we can talk to, but that business development has to be based on what our citizens say they'd like. You, Mr. Dawson, Mr. Steinhagen, or Mayor Steinhagen, myself, we all have different opinions on businesses we like as an individual, but it's up to the community what kind of businesses they want us to try and bring in. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's do it one more time.
Yes. If elected, will you encourage the expansion of commercial development in the city? If yes, what types of commercial development would you have of priority?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about it at the beginning that citizens do want to see commercial development. And the big question really is, how do we control it, and making sure that we do control it. And that was one of the questions in the last survey. Do you want a centralized business district and along 205? That seems to be the general consensus of most citizens. And so first thing is, it is something that I have been working on, but we have also had a lot of other things that we have been trying to focus on as well. We've had long agendas. We've been going through all of our ordinances to evaluate them. We've met with all of our city contractors to make sure that we're getting what we paid for, that we need the service that they're offering, and that they're the right contractor for our city. So there have been things that have kind of gotten ahead of that, but I agree that business development is not a bad thing if it's the right kind of business development. But the thing I want to emphasize here is we have an incredibly low tax rate, 15 cents. When we pay off the debt on this city hall, it'll go down to 10 cents. It's automatic like that. So you can't just keep that tax rate. That's why getting out of debt is such an important thing. And so if we're going to, I hear a lot of, we need more money, we need more money. The question is, for what? What is it that we're trying to get? If we want to be a community where people can live how they want, most of us live on large enough tracts of land that we have our own parks in our backyard, so we don't need more parks. What is it exactly that we want? And this is something that the citizens need to tell us. And the way I've been listening is through surveys. Maybe Mr. Short has some better ideas that will produce better results as far as the feedback from citizens. Thank you.
And Mayor Steinhagen, this will delve into the issue of the ETJ.
Okay.
And specifically, my question to you is if you will elaborate on your support to allow the annexation of approximately 4,000 acres of the ETJ to the city of Rockwall.
Yeah, it's a real simple thing. We had absolutely no control over what goes in that ETJ. None. Zero. Zip. They can put whatever they want. Their plan was to put apartment complexes along Edwards Road. We could do nothing about it. We could not stop them. Now, the former mayor did try and negotiate with one of those developers, one of those landowners. They spent tens of thousands of dollars in attorney fees to do that. They had no compelling reason to negotiate with the city, but they played the game. And at the end of the day, absolutely nothing changed. The developer walked away. They don't have to. These developers that everybody's saying, well, we needed that ETJ. We needed that ETJ. That's our future. That's not our future. That is an empirical. That is empirically not true. Had we kept it, they would have put in a mud district. How do I know? Well, because the mayor of Rockwall called me and said, hey, by the way, you were right. They did try to move toward a mud, and we refused it. That mud district basically creates a city in itself, and we get no tax benefit whatsoever. The idea, the people who are saying that we gave up something, that we gave up the future of our city, I completely disagree with that, because there's no empirical evidence except for the fact that those developers had no desire to work with us. We did actually, by the way, we did sit down with them to try and negotiate with them. But again, they didn't have to do it. They didn't want to do it. And so at the end of the day, our only option, because we can't annex them, is to give it to Rockwall. Rockwall can annex them. They are annexing them, and they're stopping them from doing apartment complexes and multifamily homes, and they're going to keep the highest density away from our city. That's a heck of a lot more than we could ever promise our citizens.
Mr. Short, what is your position relating to the city's decision to allow the annexation of approximately 4,000 acres of the ETJ to the city of Rockwall?
Well, I think it was a bad idea. Okay? I do understand where Mayor Steinhagen's coming from. I disagree with a lot of what he said. That is part of our future. It's 4,000 acres, and it may be a little more than 4,000, so I say 4,000. But it is part of our future. Right now, having let it go without anything in return, even if you want to say in return was the city of Rockwall, Mayor Pruitt, which I think is a fine and upstanding individual, saying we're not going to allow this, there's no promise kept there, or I should say, that promise doesn't have to be kept. They're under no obligation to keep that away from us, okay? It's now something they can do what they want. Well, everybody here travels through Rockwall at some point every day, and they see what Rockwall has built. Well, Rockwall is like any other city. If they want to keep what they've built, some of the stuff that the citizens don't want to see right up in front, they're going to move out to the outer edges. Well, that outer edge has now become that 4,000 acres right in our own backyard. I can't promise that won't happen. Mayor Steinhagen can't promise that won't happen. Mayor Pruitt can't promise that won't happen. You can use the words, but there's no guarantee to that. It was a bad decision. Do I agree that we may not have been able to control everything they did? That's a possibility. But those folks at the table were trying to negotiate properly managed development. I was not there at the table, so I can't tell you what happened, but they were trying to properly manage that development with that developer. Thank you. I know, I'm up next. This time I didn't forget.
We're going to switch gears now and
Yes, sir.
talk about emergency services. And for the timekeeper, this is going to be a 4-minute response. You'll have up to 4 minutes to
Yes, sir.
respond. Very simply, what's your proposal for providing emergency services to the city of McLendon-Chisholm? What's your estimated cost, and what will the impact be to the current 15-cent tax rate?
Well, sir, estimated cost, I don't know right off the top of my head. That question, the way that's phrased in the estimated cost, it would take me time to look at what the needs are based on what our citizens want. I think it's fair to say it's an unfair question from Mayor Steinhagen as well in that cost. As far as emergency services is concerned, you know, our citizens deserve to have emergency services, whether you want to call it public safety, whether you want to call it police, fire, medical. You know, it's a core essential piece to our government here. Our public safety, you and I, the community, okay? One thing is to restore what the people want, listening to the community. Do you want police, fire, medical services? And if so, how do you see those services? And then again, a mayor and a city council that makes a good informed decision based on that. All right? We need to restore a fire service. I'm like each and every one here. I've paid taxes, and I expect something in return. One of those core values or one of those essential pieces of our government is that fire service. I've paid for it, and for the last 4 months, I'm receiving that service from that entity, but they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're not being reimbursed for that. I paid for it. So did everybody else here. But, we need to restore that kind of service, and we need to restore the citizens' confidence that we're going to continue to provide that service. What is the dollar value? I don't know. I have read some things on what the cost of fire engines or pumper trucks or brush trucks, whatever terminology you want to use for different types of fire equipment, including bunker gear, radios, air masks, and it's very, very high. Not only that, but once you equate the cost of all that equipment, there's manpower that has to be able to fit in that stuff. You can't just have the equipment and no body to put in it. Well, when you get the bodies, as a city, we are going to be responsible for some sort of insurance for protecting those people, whether they're volunteer, whether they're paid. There's still an inherent cost on top of that, to include with all that equipment, costs of keeping the equipment running, keeping the equipment certified. There are certain regulations and requirements where stuff has to be certified every so often. What those numbers are, I can't tell you. Is it 6 months, a year, 2 years? I don't know off the top of my head, but I do know it exists from working with my own fire department where I currently am a police officer. Okay? So there are costs there as well. And those costs can go up to a high amount. But what I will tell you is that that needs to be restored, because the one thing that we have offered here is fire service. What's happening is we're talking about starting our own when we have the information and the equipment right there available. Why would I want to spend my community's money to start new when I have stuff there? We need to do something better to fix that, to use what's there and come with an agreement to enhance it or bring it on and make it better. But as far as a dollar figure, I can't give you an exact estimate today. It's up to those people out there as the community and the people that live here to tell us what that need is. Thank you.
As a conservative, I believe that a fundamental role of government is to provide the best service for the most people at the least cost. And where government cannot provide that, government should not act. Public safety is one of those fundamental elements, and certainly is something that it has become the highest priority of the City Council, as evidenced by our actions. Let's remember that 4 years ago, when the city began to pay to staff the fire station, it was for a fire chief to man the station. I believe it was from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Why is that? Well, because the Rockwall County Emergency Services, the ambulance service, their response time was through the the Rockwall County Emergency Medical Services Board that hired them, was 11 minutes. That was an 11-minute maximum response time was what they contracted for. However, there was nothing to hold them accountable. And so when they missed it by 15 minutes or 20 minutes, when they didn't arrive on scene until 30 or 45 minutes later, there was no way to hold them accountable. And so The city council said we want to at least have someone on scene of a medical emergency in the event that would happen, so that we can get there faster, and that at least basic first aid can take place. So that's why it began, and as evidence proves, that has been over half of all the fire calls that the fire department has gone on. As a member of the Emergency Services Corporation Board, I helped to negotiate the new contract that we signed in September and went into effect in October. That new contract said that the ambulance service will respond to medical emergencies in 8 minutes, and there is a penalty if they miss it. The very first month that contract was in effect in October, they missed some calls and they were fined $17,500. Since that time, Rockwall County EMS has been on time, 8-minute response time. When we met with the fire chief and the treasurer of the fire department, and we talked to them about this fact, this new contract, this new reality. And we talked about all of the number of calls and the fact that in the last survey, the citizens overwhelmingly were not okay with the fact that we're paying the fire safety services for the people who are in the unincorporated area that makes up 2/3 of the fire district. And my goal was to find a way to get those in the unincorporated area to start contributing to their fire safety. The first thing I did when I first got on council, I offered the fire department $10,000. I'm a fundraiser, a professional fundraiser. I said I'd like to set up a fundraising campaign, and a perpetual campaign called the 100 Club. And I will help you manage it, and I'll give you the seed money that will cover all the administrative costs, so that all the donations that come into it are pure donations, and that's how it. And that's how we would invite those who are in the unincorporated area to participate, because I do think that they would want to do something like that. Fire department says we're too busy. We need to be training. So this last year, basically, I basically said we've got to figure out a way for the unincorporated area to start contributing to their fire safety. And instead of negotiating, the fire chief said, we're not negotiating. You either pay us what we're making now, increase it so that we can add a Sunday service, or go to all volunteer fire service. That's why we got where we are, and we're going to improve fire service. Sorry, I'm out of time.
Thank you. Thus far, negotiations between the city of McLendon-Chisholm and the McLendon-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department have been unsuccessful in reaching an agreement, as we all know. Would you be in favor of utilizing the services of a professional mediator in this ongoing negotiation to try to reach a resolution?
I'll do anything it will take to resolve the situation. One of the things you asked, and I didn't answer the question, the previous question, was what is the future of the fire department? And the answer to that is we have tried again and again and again. We have acted in good faith every time, and the fire department is not represented by members of the fire department. They're represented by two individuals that are quasi members, and who have no ability, no authority to actually negotiate. So we've had 3 special meetings as the city council to try and resolve this issue, and we have been unsuccessful. So we have no other choice. We are moving forward. Councilmember Orchard, Mayor Pro Tem Orchard, sent the fire chief one last opportunity, saying, "Hey, look, if you get back with us Friday, we can still get this contract signed. We can still kind of move forward together. But we have to move forward, and we have to protect our citizens, and that's exactly what we're doing. We've sent out a newsletter updating citizens about the facts about what is before us, and how we plan to move forward. And I don't believe, as far as cost go, that we are going to need an increase in the tax rate. I think that we are actually going to provide better service for less money, because we are going to have a fire chief that is highly qualified, who actually has certifications through TCFP, but more than that, has experience as a full-time firefighter who has actually fought structure fires firsthand, and has actually, and this is more important, has actually taught firefighters how to do their craft. Now that's important, and I'm hoping that that's the kind of fire chief and leader that we have for our city. I want more than anything to resolve the impasse with the MCVFD, and as our actions prove, we've taken every step that we know how to try and resolve it. But we're not going to we are not going to be at the mercy of a contractor. We have an obligation to the citizens of our city, and we have an obligation to ensure their public safety, and that's exactly what we are planning to do. Thank you very much.
Sure, if you're okay with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you're comfortable.
All right.
Sure.
Okay. Well, folks, here's the thing. When it comes to, you asked about a professional negotiator because of the impasse.
Correct.
I'm going to step back, and I don't want this to sound like I can't make decisions without talking to the citizens, but I think it's imperative if the citizens want it and they feel that a professional negotiator needs to be brought in to get it done, then yes, I would be in favor of that. And the reason I say that is, it's nothing against Mayor Steinhagen or the City Council. It's nothing against Chief Jones and the fire department. But what's happened is, and we've all seen this throughout our lives, you got two kids on a street corner, and neither one of them's willing to back down. I'm not saying everybody's right, and I'm not saying everybody's wrong. I think there's equal blame on both sides. There's equal things that I agree with on both sides. But we can't sit there and battle it out on a street corner and see who's left standing with yours and mine's safety in the middle. So I would say if my citizens, and I say that because I'm part of this community, if the community says yes, then yeah, we need to do that. Because it is paramount that we have our public safety. And not two kids on a street corner duking it out at our expense. Thank you.
So if you get out of hearing distance, you aren't informed. But this is what our purpose for this forum is, to have you get an informed vote so that you'll go vote. Frankly, I love the enthusiasm. I think this is wonderful because it gets you to the polls. But you have to listen to what the candidates are saying so that you will leave here knowing how you want to vote. And I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, and this is closing?
Yeah, we're going to start with closing statements now. And Mr. Short, you've got 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, sir. First off, I want to tell everybody thank you for being here. I know on a weeknight, everybody gets busy. Everybody's got families, better things to do after a long day at work. I appreciate your support for both of us in showing up. My closings, if you elect me as a mayor, I just want to do the best I can to make you proud of your community and your community leaders that you elect, to listen to you, to show you respect, to make the right decisions based on what you tell us the needs are of the community, whether that's the type of business development, the type of residential development, additional amenities. And I understand where Mr. Steinhagen's coming from, and it's funny because I agree. Some of these houses, the amount of land there is big enough you have a park in your own backyard. But we still desire those as a community because we don't always want to be in our own backyard. We'd love to be in a nice park away from the house. We need some of those kind of amenities in our city. It'll draw other people here to see what a beautiful community we have and how proud we are of where we live. I believe in doing the right thing. One of the things that I've said in the past is being a good steward of our money. The tax money that the city has, that's our money. We pay into that, and being good stewards of that money and being responsible with it's very important. We have to be responsible with our own money, or bill collectors come. Same thing with the citizens' money. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I want to leave you with one last thing. Whether you vote for me or whether you vote for Mr. Steinhagen, what I will ask you to do is I'd love you to vote for me, but most important, please get out and vote your heart. Thank you.
I agree with that. Thank you very much. I mean, there's a lot. I think we probably agree on more things than we disagree on, maybe, right? And we're both Republican, right? So we both believe in limited government to a degree, right? Maybe not to the same extent, and that's okay. And that's good. People can disagree. I love discourse. In fact, since middle school all the way through college, I was on the debate team doing a Lincoln Douglas debate, and I thrived on that because it was a way for me to work through issues. I've always enjoyed arguing through issues, not to be contentious, but to understand. And what has been so disappointing is that I don't see a lot of people really listening. I don't see a lot of people really trying to understand. Proverbs 18:2 says that a fool does not delight in understanding, but only in revealing his own mind. And that's why I'm so focused on making sure that we do understand what citizens are saying, and why the citizen surveys are so important. It's something that most cities don't ever do, that we've never done before. And if you elect me mayor, if you keep me as your mayor, I will continue to make sure that the voice of the people is never lost, that you're driving us forward. So I do agree, and I do ask that you go vote, and that you encourage your neighbors to vote. And if you ever have a question, I'm always available. Not a lot of people do take that opportunity, but I have never refused any citizen who has ever wanted to sit down and talk, and I will continue to do so. So if you have some specific questions, I'm available. and ready to talk. Thank you all for attending tonight, and Cliff, thank you for moderating. Appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll reconvene with the candidates for City Council. Folks, break time's over. At this point, we're going to continue the forum with the candidates for City Council. On my right, Mr. Wayne Orchard. Sitting next to him, his opponent, Herman Larkin. Melody Osorio, and Mr. Jim Bloom. Sorry. At this point, we're going to start with opening statements, and Mr. Bloom, since I handed you the microphone, you can begin. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here today. This is exciting to be able to get together and share our thoughts and let you all, as voters, hear how we think, what we want to address, that type of thing. Before I can get started, though, I know I'm just going to be distracted by it. As a firefighter, I want to address the little jab directed at Chief Jones. I won't be able to concentrate seeing something like that because it just ticks me off. I didn't expect this. So I will say that I'm a professional firefighter. I work every third day. Volunteer firefighters fight more fire than most professionals, and that's because they respond to every single fire in their district, day or night, doesn't matter. I respond to every fire on my shift. That's 1 out of 3 days. So for someone that hasn't even walked into a house with smoke banked to the floor, felt their ears burn like they're going to burn off, to call them out, just sorry, I have a shake voice because I'm still a little upset. Okay. Jim Bloom, running for place 4. Like I said, professional firefighter. Before that, I spent 20 years in the corporate world. Worked at ad agencies. My specialty was taking on accounts that were this close to firing their agencies. I would come in, I'd rectify that situation, identify what the problems were on both the client and the agency side, and get the relationship and the project back on track. I feel like that, combined with my firefighter service now as a firefighter paramedic, makes me well suited for this job. That's why I'm here. I didn't expect to be here. If you had said that, I would be in early February, I would have said there's no way. But going, I work almost an hour from here in Denton, or south of Denton, for Lake City's fire department. And I go there every third day to take care of other people's families. To know that while I'm gone, the existing protection for my family and all of y'all has been squandered and put out to pasture is unacceptable to me. And look forward to addressing some of these issues.
Please excuse my notes. I want to keep on track with limited time and be clear for you. I'm stepping up to listen to the citizens. I am for limited government, open spaces, 1.5 acre lot minimum, low property taxes, encouraging and supporting locally owned businesses, furthering open communication and increasing resident involvement. Why live far out unless to escape the crowding? Driving home, I see the longhorns in my neighbor's yard and I think, yeah, this is amazing. We need to protect this. Then Sonoma Verde comes into sight and I think about how different the neighborhood. I contemplate the future of the city and a wholesome lifestyle for our children. I used to see cornfields outside my front door. Now we see roofs so close that you might jump one to the other. It's not what I expected, though it is what Sonoma Verde residents do expect. The perspective is different. I can see the dual housing we have to work with. Those folks bought into that dream while the rural landowners another. I think we can dream together. Those large lots with nice homes you see in Dallas and Parker, that's where people wish they could live. That's where the money is, right? The rich neighborhoods. Because they keep their lots large. We can do that with 1.5 acre lots and still grow. Sonoma Verde could become the rare complement as a singular high-density neighborhood within the open spaces and large rural lots. Where people who want to live in the country that are looking for a first home those that simply rather be in a high-density planned neighborhood, or perhaps empty nesters interested in subdivision amenities, who have raised their kids and no longer want a large lot but love McLendon-Chisholm and its limited government and low city taxes. Maybe later they'll buy a large lot and build a custom home themselves. Large lot homes will keep their value and raise others. Large lots will eventually have new builds on them. Bigger houses, more square footage, more taxes. We have 2 being built in our neighborhood just now. It's gonna bring, oh, sorry.
Well, thank you everybody for coming, and thank you Clint and Laverne for having us and hosting this. My name's Herman Larkin, and I'm running for City Council Place 2. I'm one of those guys. It's kind of interesting. We're not running as a block, but you see a fireman, another fireman, a police officer, a couple of Marines, and such. And what you're seeing are people who understand service, people who have a servant's heart. Some 49 years ago, when I was 20 years old, I volunteered to join the Marine Corps and go to Vietnam. And not everybody was volunteering. It wasn't a popular decision. But I had a servant's heart, and I knew that's where I needed to be. I thought that's where my country needed me. Today, I think my country needs me here. Okay? And that's why I'm running. Okay? So, that 49 years ago, I joined the Marine Corps as a private. I worked for 8 years as an enlisted man, transitioned into the warrant officer ranks, and then into the limited duty officer ranks, and some 26 years later, retired as a lieutenant colonel. That's no small accomplishment, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but it was a scenario where I had interface with a lot of high officials and a lot of briefing opportunities and a lot of budget working. I handled all of the computer procurements for the entire Marine Corps. I have debriefed the Competition Advocate General of the United States. I have debriefed the Secretary of the Navy. I am qualified for this job. I will listen to the people. I said this in the county forum. I'm here to listen to the people, to hear what they say, and to take the action that's required. And I hope you vote for me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wayne Orchard. I've lived in Rockwall County for 20 years. I've now lived in McLendon-Chisholm for over 13. I have a wife, 3 kids. Same as Herman, we've got the same kind of heart. We like to volunteer, whether that is at church, whether it's in the community. It's always something that keeps us going, extracurricular outside of our work. I spent 6 years with MCVFD. Something that people think, just because my name is on a sign, that I sit right next, to the mayor, that I'm lock and step exactly with what he says and what he does. Well, I'm not going to sit here and apologize for anything that Mayor Steinhagen says or does. That is not my place. You have the opportunity to vote him continually in or out. Now, I will say that Chief Jones, it was a pleasure working with him when I was at the MCVFD, and I'd go fight any fire today if I was still on the fire department with him. Thank you.
Mr. Orchard, the first question will go to you, and I apologize for any redundancy because some of you have already touched on some of these things in your opening statements and so forth, but we'll move forward regardless. Why do you believe you're the best candidate for City Council? And I would ask that you please provide specifics from your professional background that would uniquely qualify you for the position you're seeking.
Certainly. On a professional side, I've been in multiple different businesses, all the way from employee to owning my own business, which means budgeting, having different diversity, people that you have to talk with and work with, different vendors, that you're having to deal with. My track record the last 2 years has proven that I'm going to make sure that we have a rural, open country environment. I welcome anyone's comments at any point in time. We've got time up here that we say, hey, talk to us. That's one thing I've always said. Talk to me. Let me know what are you saying? What are you feeling? What do you think? Talking about the future of MCVFD. That's one of the biggest things that I think challenges any council. To have these plans, because like in the business, the city can't just pop up and make a business. They've got to have a district there, and they've got to have land use and have to have the value there, have to make sure that the population that's going to go and make sure that the people are going to go into that business. But the big thing is having the developers come in, because the majority of the businesses don't own the land or the building. So we need the developers to come in and be attraction here. I think what we've learned through the city survey is they want kind of everything compact here at the 205 and 550 corridor and right down that lane right there. Well, now we need to project that out and say, hey, how can we as a city attract those developers to build the buildings so tenants can come in with their businesses?
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Would you please? Thank you, sir.
Why do you believe that you're the best candidate for city council and for this particular place? And please provide specifics from your professional background that would uniquely qualify you for the position you are seeking.
Well, I've actually touched on some of this. Thank you for repeating the question. One of the real obstacles that is in front of this city right now is public safety. And what are we going to do? And what are we going to do about the continuing fire service? I'm eminently qualified here. I've worked for it for 7 years. I've served as an officer in the fire department. I've been the treasurer of the fire department. I was referenced earlier. Okay? So I've got a history in this community. I've been involved with this community since I moved here in 2007. I also have a lot of experience of working with groups of people and listening to groups of people and trying to determine what the needs are. I do not claim to be the expert on everything. I think anybody who claims to be the expert on everything and dictates what things should be without listening to other people is absolutely not paying attention to what the other people need. You have to be able to listen to the people and take that input back. I believe I'm the person to do that. I don't think that's being done today, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to give the city back to the citizens. Thank you.
Why am I qualified? I care. I want to listen. I want to help propose solutions. I want to gain understanding about what's going on. I have had a lot of customer-centric positions. I have lived and worked abroad. I've worked with customers, large companies, resellers, finding solutions for them. I've never wanted to do things the way everybody else did them. When I was in directing sales and marketing for our international market, I get a lot of salespeople would come and they just want to sell. They just want the money, and then they want to move on. They want to be the top for the month. They want to get their commissions. For me, it's about relationship building. I always felt that it was important to have relationships for the long run, to provide a good product, something that they needed and wanted, and to continue to improve on it. And not just tell them what they wanted, but listen to what they wanted and constantly be there to help move that along and work out the contracts with them. Just be partners, not just customer and salesperson. For me, it worked out very well. It was not just rewarding for me personally, but it made a lot of money for the company. And they continue to make money on that relationship building that I did. And it's just a different way. A lot of people didn't agree with it, but I found that the best way was to make those relationships and make them work, constantly work at them. So I want to listen and I want to help. Thank you.
Would you like me to repeat the question? No, sir, I'm good. And I just want to thank everyone for listening to my little rant. I feel better, but if you didn't figure it out in fire service, if you attack one of us, you attack all of us. Or, yeah, that's it. So I just had to say something for my brother in the service. I feel like I bring a lot to the table. Starting with my family has always been a servant-oriented family. I'm fortunate for that. My father was a World War II vet, Korea vet. When I was growing up, he was mayor of Pantego, which is a small town in central Arlington, which, by the way, has full-time fire and police. It's about the size of McLendon-Chisholm. It's always had that. I don't know how, but they do. Going to the business world, I started out in ad agencies. I worked on a variety of accounts, including the U.S. Air Force, Continental Airlines, American Airlines. Became an Army contractor. Started a couple businesses. One of them in the video game space. We made $100 million in sales in just 3 years. It's one of the original co-founders of that. So being able to look at the situation, be a quick study, identify the opportunities, the threats, that type of thing, and then decide what might be the best course of action are all strengths I have. I'll echo everything else that people have said as far as listening to the citizens. I think that's one thing that gets a lot of lip service. If you've been to any of the city council meetings, I think you get the sense that that's not what is going on. Citizens go up there and speak and speak and speak and nothing changes. Instead, they refer to a survey that was, if you want to use the word cleverly worded, very transparent to get the results they wanted. Again, my experience from a business standpoint, from a professional firefighter, and from a lifetime of being around other great servants in my family, I think all brings a lot to the table. Thank you.
And Mr. Bloom will continue the questioning with you. And I'm going to pose the same question to this group that I did to the mayoral candidates. Obviously, emergency services are the hot topic. Right. And there's opposing views and opinions on what we should do. And I'd like to hear what your proposal is for providing emergency services to the city of McLendon-Chisholm, and what impact that you think that might have on our 15-cent tax rate. And this is a opportunity to respond for 4 minutes if you need that much time.
Okay, thank you. First, I'm not inherently opposed to the notion of a city-owned fire department. My issue is the way they went about it, and that is to stop everything, argue about it for a few months, and then start a process to figure out what they're going to do. Just today, we're getting information. They want to buy a $150,000 engine, $50,000 brush truck, $115,000 allocated for tools, equipment, bunker gear, SCBAs, mask. Goes on and on. A cascade system, I assume, which wasn't in the list, but it's a lot of money, and it's not going to really save anything. Add in that a fire station. My opinion is that what we had wasn't broken. It was working well. They're providing outstanding service for us. And we're doing it at an increased level by providing 2 paid firefighters 12 hours a day while most people are out at work, or there's a lot of travel on the road. Those are the times when a lot of people, maybe they live at home with their kids or older people. They need help. Fires happen in the day when no one's home, much more of a loss. So I think what we had was working well. They were willing to listen, and the fire department was willing to listen and work with a city-owned fire department. That, from everything I've seen and heard, and I've talked to a lot of people, never was really given its due. They had the opportunity to continue the contract, and in, I want to say, 18, 20 months, if I'm not mistaken, they would be able to get all 4 apparatus. That's 2 engines, 2 brush trucks. One of those is a 2017 Skeeter brush truck. Thing's awesome. Those things are expensive. The reason old trucks are cheap is because after the 8 to 10 year life cycle, they become cost prohibitive. They break down a lot, they're expensive to fix, and that's why fire departments get rid of them. That was one of the things that took me some getting used to going from the corporate world to fire service. It seemed excessive until you spend time on an old engine and you realize that thing's out of service all the time. Fire departments don't get the luxury of being out of service. So one engine isn't enough, especially an old one. You need two at least. And that's so you can respond when the other one's in the shop, because it will be, and it's going to be expensive to fix. The other problem, city-owned fire department, they never really talk about the personnel. The county would still need to be covered, and MCVFD would still do that. Where are these volunteers going to come from? They're not knocking down the door now to go to MCVFD. It sounds great. Everyone gets lots of support, but when it comes time to actually sign up, I don't think anyone from the council has signed up, but they don't mind getting rid of it and saying we're going all volunteer. Where are those bodies going to come from? They still need to take care of the county. That's still going to happen. If that was the issue alone, how to deal with getting the county to pay their fair share, that could have been addressed. There's a lot of ways to do it. Argyle handles that. Aubrey handles that out closer to where I work. They have things attached to the water bill, attached to the garbage bill. There's all kinds of solutions to get people to pay, and people in the county are willing to pay. That's what's so crazy. Just finding the method is all that really needed to be done. That was the missing piece. And we threw the baby out with the bathwater. That makes no sense to me, and in the meantime, we have nothing. If it's to save money, I could even get behind that if they said we saved this, but look what we did for you guys. They haven't done that. All they've done is increase the legal bills, and I have no other benefit of city service I've seen since we lost the fire department. The money's being squandered. I would bring that back.
Do you need me to repeat the question?
Sure.
What is your proposal for providing emergency services to the city of McLendon-Chisholm? And if possible, can you give us some idea of what impact your plan would have on the 15-cent tax rate?
Okay, well, it's hard to have another proposal. We've had quite a few proposals that we need to sort of look through. This seems to be a lot of misunderstanding. I can't see why we can't come to an amicable agreement here. I don't know where it stopped, but we've gone on with the McLendon-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department all this time, and then something has changed. Something has changed. Why did that change? I would want to look at what's come before, not reinvent the wheel with that. I'm not opposed to whatever the citizens want. Based on us getting to see everything that's been proposed and what's involved here, I think that we should be able to come to an agreement somehow and just figure out where it all went wrong, get funding for them. They certainly need to be funded. I believe that all firefighters, police officers, they're heroes, they save lives, it's important, and we all want to have fire protection. It's just a matter of how to do it that's best for the city. So as far as having a particular proposal, what I would do is look at what the experts have put forth already and see what needs to be done with what we already have, because we have a fire department, we have a possibility for a city-owned fire department. So that's what I would need to have a look at and see if we can't piece together what went wrong and get it back on track one way or the other to work out for the citizens so we all have the protection that we want and we need. Thank you.
No need to repeat the question. No. Okay, I'm just going to tag team off of what candidate Bloom said over here, because he said a lot of the right things, and I agree with all of them. So let me just start out with, where do we stand today? Well, we don't have a contract. The latest contract that was submitted today had a mandatory clause in there that the current MCVFD that served this community for 43 years dissolve no later than September the 30th. That's just unsatisfactory that you would tell a nonprofit organization who has served this community for 43 years that they have to dissolve in order to be a team player with this city. This city has now said, okay, we're going to form a committee and we're going to study what it takes. What do we need to build? And we're also going to bring in a consultant and hire a fire marshal and let him help consult us. And the excitement was great. And we're going to do all this stuff. And a week later, they're passing a resolution to buy an engine. It's putting the cart before the horse. The scenario is this. The $200,000 they allocated to spend, for $245,000, they could have kept the existing service of the current fire department for 20 more months, and then they could have taken ownership of $1.4 million worth of assets, no questions asked. But they didn't want to do that. They'd rather spend $400,000 to buy equipment and still not have manpower and still not have an interim service. I'm sorry, there's too many holes in this plan. Mr. Bloom mentioned about a cascading system. That's not even in their plan. You can't fill the air bottles without a cascade system. There's no operation and maintenance. There's no place to actually house this. We can build a Martin building with 2 stalls and that'll work. No, that's not city code. City code's brick and mortar. The city can't violate its own construction codes. If you do, you can't hold other businesses to it. You can't do that. So the question is, what we had wasn't broken, and I keep hearing all the time, it's not about the money. So my question is, if it's not about the money, what is it? Because nobody's told us yet what it is. And the only thing I can think of is that it's a personal vendetta. Okay? And that has no place in government. And that's why you've got people up here with a passion that are running. Okay? And I will tell you that there's no additional cost to do this. I think that maybe instead of a city-owned fire department, maybe we play in partnership with the outlying area and work in cooperation with the ESD, the formation of an emergency services district, whereby the citizens of the city could not be paying taxes for fire service to the city, but would instead be paying a lower tax to the emergency services district. And guess what? We'd have more money. Now we'd have the people in the unincorporated area helping pay for the fire service. Now we'd have the city people helping. We'd have better services, more money, and a lot of expansion. That's where I think we need to go. We don't need to say, we're going to buy an engine, because that's not a plan. It's not a plan. You have to have an interim service. Somebody has to answer these calls. We've answered 2, 3 car accidents with injuries in the last 3 days, okay? And everybody knows that we answer a lot of calls quickly. We have a lot of volunteers who have a servant's heart, and they're in an instant. And you're getting ready to turn that light on.
So I keep hearing about plan. Well, the city did have a plan. The city came up, the council members voted 4-1 for an all-volunteer option, which was given to us by MCVFD. When that time came to say, here, the contract never got signed. So we said, okay, what's the problem? Well, there was some personality conflicts. Like you said, we wanted to make sure that there wasn't nothing stopping there from people arguing with one another. So I stepped in, I said, hey, let me take care of negotiations with Scott Turnbull, give me 2 members from MCVFD leadership, and let's sit down and talk. Now, really, I had expected Mr. Larkin to be one of those at the table, because we can talk with one another. We can disagree with one another. We can get through stuff, all right? That didn't happen. Instead, when we did sit down, one of the things that was presented to us was a municipal-owned fire department. We didn't come up with that. Council was not looking at that point in time. So we sat down, talked through that process. I said, that's going to be a long process. Let's get this other contract for fire services, fire protection underway right now. I want guaranteed fire protection right now. No, let's look at this MCVFD or MCFD municipal-owned fire department. So we went through that process. It got all the way up into March. And finally, it was as much as we could go and say, this is what we can give. And so a contract was presented. It was turned down at that time. Okay, let's get back onto the all-volunteer contract because I want services contract. No one in the council, nor I have ever pushed MCVFD away. I would love to work MCVFD into the fold. If it came down to me having my seat or MCVFD coming in and helping run a municipal fire department, I would choose that. I would give my seat up. Because, guys, I'm just like you. I don't want, first of all, services being unknown or guys and gals putting their, life in danger and not getting paid for those services. That's not ever been the case. It's always been about not getting together on the same page. So, as far as the city-owned fire rescue, this has been stuff that's been talked about. It's been talked about in open session. There's been stuff that has been passed about the establishment of MCFD Fire Rescue. This is nothing new. So we have to now say, if we can't get together with MCVFD, we've got to protect our citizens. How are we going to do that? Well, you got to take one step at a time. First step was establishing the fire department. Second step is you got to get equipment. You got to get gear. Yeah, I think we would love to have $250,000, $350,000 fire engine, but you have to have a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year plan. I have a handful of advisors and a consultant that is working with us on this stuff. These are experienced people and are saying this is what needs to be done if you're going to continue down. But just last night, or on Tuesday night, we had executive session, came out, talked, and it wasn't on recording, it had audio, so I felt an obligation to Chief Jones to tell him that, hey, this is what happened. Now, if there is an obligation you want, all right, thank you.
Mr. Warcher, we're going to continue with you. What's your philosophy relating to the scope of government for McLendon-Chisholm with respect to services and amenities that the city might provide and the amount of regulation imposed on its citizens? Yeah. 2 minutes.
Well, really, as far as services and amenities, I think, as far as your basic, services of police, fire, we've got, the sheriff's department, we have EMS, currently MCVFD out of their own pocket is running, fire right now. Those are the services that I would say as a citizen I expect and I'm going to protect. The other services and amenities are going to be based off of growth. What happens with the growth of the city and what is going to be the citizen involvement in this. I think it was Keith Short that talked about, the park, if it's something that the citizens want, it's going to be used, then I'm for it. But I know that a lot of towns, their parks and recs have a huge budget and they're not being utilized as much. So there's different things that you can have as far as your amenities, but it has to be approved by the citizens, especially if it's going to increase any kind of tax rate. Thank you.
No, sir, I'm fine. So let me just continue. I agree with Wayne on a lot of this. I think from the amenity standpoint, there are only certain things we can do right now. We are trying to retain that rural lifestyle, And so there's only a certain amount of amenities that we really should even expect, okay? So I want to commend the city council for when they talked to the sheriff's department about should we have a permanently stationed officer here? And they said, no, it's not time yet. It will eventually be time, but it's not time yet, okay? But then we talked about EMS, and next thing you know, we were talking about the idea of let's put a full-time paramedic out here in a Medic 80 vehicle. Well, the time wasn't right for that either, okay? So that's one of the things where we have to be consistent in the way we think about bringing amenities. The city-owned fire department, is something that perhaps we're going to go to, perhaps we're not going to go to. The study still needs to be done, but there needs to be an interim service that protects the citizens. There's just been too many incidents around here lately that the citizens need protection on. 205 is becoming a real hotbed for serious accidents. So that's there. I think we're a long ways away from establishing what we're going to do about maybe parks and that kind of stuff. The first thing we really need to do is establish what is going to be that commercial district and what are they going to bring, and then look for some amenities that might match that. Thank you.
I agree that we're probably not ready for more than basic services. What we provide with the protection for our citizens, that's very important, and that should be the first priority. Fire services, emergency services. As far as commercial and amenities, parks and whatnot, most of us that have large lots have parks in our yards. We have room to play and run around. And I know that the folks in Sonoma Verde have a lot of things planned. Well, what I've seen, they have a lot of things planned for their development, for the things that they need to compensate for that. Parks and schools and churches I've seen in their plan as well. So as we grow, yes, we would need to provide more services, but at this time, I agree that what we have, the basic services, is what's necessary. As far as getting businesses in, I'd look for local businesses, maybe having it all in one area, maybe helping the businesses that are already here get more business, and just keep it local, reinvest our dollars here, and grow smart. Have a basic plan that we can fill in, sort of have an interactive kind of city plan that we can move with, and based on what the citizens want. We have so much knowledge and experience. Representatives can ask their citizens, and I'm sure that they can get so many ideas and so many solutions just by asking. Thank you.
I agree with a lot of what's being said up here too. I think one of the core functions of any government is public safety, and that needs to be provided, no excuses. It's not being provided now. I think that's step one. That's not my only thing. I agree on development. We all love the wide open spaces. I moved out here for wide open spaces, and I saw houses get built. I've been out here for about a little over 12 years. I've seen wide open spaces get occupied with new neighborhoods. Y'all have seen people move in. Judy watched my house get built in. So we're all seeing this wide open space change, and once we move here, we want to stop everything. That's not realistic. I wish it was. Trust me. I used to live in a tiny little town in East Texas. Nothing but wide open spaces out there. Highway widened. They just tore down half the town, and things dying on its own. I work for a city that wants to keep itself small and quaint, and they're right on I-35. We cover everything between Denton and Louisville. Growth happens, and if you don't pursue it and define it yourself, it gets defined for you, and it ends up your infrastructure fails, your housing values go down, your population, demographic changes, and you have to deal with all of that. The vision I had in my head was actually repeated and explained much better than I probably could have at the last forum when, and the name escapes me, one of the mayor candidates for Heath said all the processes they've gone through to identify smart growth. And I was like, yes, that's the type of thing. There's other ways. There's citizen committees that you can bring and say, what would you like to see? Where would you like to see it? I think the government's job is to create those conversations and the citizens' job to make the decisions. Thank you.
Mr. Bloom, we're going to go ahead and continue with the discussion about growth and planning and so forth. And earlier in the previous forum, we talked about the minimum lot sizes that are already mandated in the single-family districts, and in the plan development districts that it's kind of wide open depending on what the city council approves. And basically my question is the same as before, two parts. Do you support the current zoning ordinance as it's written for the single-family districts, and would you enforce it? And with respect to the plan development areas of the city, would you also support acre-and-a-half minimum lots, or do you foresee a scenario where you would be in favor of higher densities than that?
Okay. As a longtime resident, like I said, I moved out here. I like the large lot sizes. I'll admit, when Sonoma Verde was getting built, I wasn't thrilled. I now have friends in there. I've gone back there. It's beautiful. They've done a great job. But that's a done deal. The future growth, yes, I would like to stick with the acre-and-a-half, absolutely. Am I writing off all conversations for other things? No, but I'm going to tell you it's going to be a harder sell. I like the spaces. I do like the wide open. I think the only way to limit, because essentially what you're doing is limiting the number of rooftops. If you're going to limit the number of rooftops, you have to balance the tax base with business. That goes back to the smart development, picking what comes in, not letting others pick what comes here, and then just always being in a reactionary, do we want this, do we want that? No. Find out what your citizens want, go pursue that, and bring in the tax base that way. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Could you repeat the question again, please?
With respect to the existing single-family districts that require anywhere from an acre-and-a-half to 5 acres, depending on which zone that it is, do you support that, and would you enforce it if you become a city council member, or would you propose something smaller? And with respect to the plan development district, which is pretty much wide open, the city council, whatever they approve can be built there, would you support an acre-and-a-half density, or would you support a higher density for residential development?
I do support the 1.5 acre lot, the larger lots. High density, like we've heard, comes with a lot of other issues when you start getting into it. I believe keeping our rural atmosphere is important. I think that we can transition into a sort of country estate sort of place with our larger lots. I don't think that we need to go into more high density housing. I do believe that having the larger lots and keeping with that rural country style, that we will attract the sort of families that want to have that, and that will keep our traffic down, because that's going to be a big issue as well coming up. Traffic, crime is another thing that comes with the high density housing when you have a lot of it. And I want my neighbors to be able to have horses in their yards. I want them to be able to have the freedom here that they might not find elsewhere. I think that we need to preserve that. And really, it comes down to what the citizens want, what the residents want. If they want more high density, I certainly am not going to impose my will upon anybody, but that is my preference, to have the larger lots and the country estates, and keep us rural. Thank you.
I will not make you repeat the question. Sorry. So this is one of those areas where I'm kind of the stick in the mud, maybe. Okay, and I know this is extremely unpopular, but I like the wide open spaces and I like the large lots. But to go back to what Jim Bloom said in his presentation, we have to be worried about a balance here. Taxation on the citizens in the 12.6 miles that is now the city of McLendon-Chisholm will be shouldered solely by the citizens that are in that city. And without businesses to balance that, the tax burden is going to fall on us. So there's a scenario here where we've given away 4,000 acres. Well, we can't go in that direction. And we've alienated some people down in the unincorporated area, and they're not ready to be annexed. Okay? So the reality is we now have to shoulder that burden. It is likely, in my opinion, that there are some we could entertain less than an acre and a half at some of the outlying areas of this county. That subdivision that was proposed that the mayor talked about earlier was 5 miles down 550 toward Heath, all the way down at Rabbit Ridge. They offered to come into the city limits, and all that tax revenue would have been in the city coffers. I don't know how that would have impacted my wide open spaces or most of the wide open spaces of the people here, because it would have been adjacent to Heath, right across the street from Stoneleigh. Okay? So I think we have to be wise and we have to be open to ideas that help balance the tax burden so that we are not shouldering it all ourselves. Thank you.
Can you repeat? No. So for growth, what is it in the future for growth? I think I agree with everyone here. You know, the rural aspect, wide open spaces. I think everybody. That's what got everybody out here. You know, that's why Sonoma Verde is here. You know, Sonoma Verde, they came out here not just because they wanted a small lot and that was it. They like the wide open, and maybe they're just so busy and everything else, or like some people talked about, they're retired and that's the type of home that they want and yard. That's great. But what we found is that type of growth in a high density environment where they have to go out and get bonds and get a PID and stuff, that now puts strain onto us as the government and as citizens. Because if something happens to that sewer system that Sonoma Verde has put in, we have to pay for it. And yes, there's a PID and there's an assessment that goes along with that. But if that happens right now, today, we have to come out of pocket for that. And the assessment will have to catch up to that. So you have to be wise. And I think you talk about smart growth, Mr. Bloom, is that, you have to make sure that those types of things are all dealt with up front and looked at. But again, that's where the citizens will be able to really voice that. If there is a builder that comes in and says, hey, this is what I want to do, then we're going to have public opinion about that. And we want to make sure that the citizens are involved. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Orchard. This is the last question, and then we'll have closing statements. I've heard a couple of different versions about what went on with the annexation of the approximate 4,000 acres into the city of Rockwall. And I'd just like to hear from each one of you as to what your position is on that.
Sure. Well, I got a firsthand experience with it because I sat in that room with the developers on the phone, and the local landowner here. And we talked about what it would take in order to get them to come into the city, so that way the city could take advantage of that population. And the first thing was come into the city, and we didn't want any multifamily structure homes up against Edwards, and your high density, we needed to curb that. As soon as we got down to the third line, stuff stopped. They said, no. And we said, well, number one is, come into the city. Can you guarantee at any point in time? No, we're not going to guarantee anything. So, yes, they may have had great plans. They may have said, hey, we can hire MCVFD to come out and service us, and that would have been great for them. But as far as the population goes, there was no advantage for us. And we had a time frame in order, because they had already put in their application for a MUD. If they had that application gone through that process and had been approved, not through us, but through Austin, then there would have been absolutely nothing we could have done, Rockwall could have done, anything. So our only hope in order to protect that area was to put it over to Rockwall. Interesting, if you think about, our ETJ actually goes out half a mile. That 4,000 acres was actually more than a half mile out. You may wonder, why was there a total of 4,000 acres? Well, part of that came in to that ETJ so they could be protected from Royce City and Rockwall to annex them. They knew what the long game was, and they knew what they were doing. And so we had to protect the city the best that we could. Thank you.
Well, this will probably be short. I was not in favor of giving away the 4,000 acres. I did not have the details that the council did and the negotiators did. My problem with that was that it happened so rapidly, and I did not feel that we had enough public input into the decision. One of the things that the current council ran on was the fact that the city hall was built in what they called an expedient scenario, where the former council had to act quickly to get a certain bond rate, and so they moved on it, and that's understandable. And they said, well, we're never going to let that happen, and then the 4,000 acres happened, and it was the same thing. It was an expedient thing with very, very little citizen input. Now, there was a ruckus crowd in here one night, okay, from just about everywhere, and most of us in here sat through that, and we know it. So the reality of it is, I don't know what my final decision might have been. It might have been the same thing. But I would have liked to have had the alternative to look at that and see if that could have been a revenue source for this city going forward. And I think that the reality is we didn't get that opportunity, and that's my objection to it.
I don't think that the mayor and the city council wanted to do that. I really don't think it would have been their first choice to do that. And I do, from what I've seen, what I've learned about the how and the why, I think it may have been a burden for us if they had been allowed to do what they wanted to do. So, yes, perhaps we didn't get all the information up front, but I can't believe that it was something that they wanted to do, and I would have to trust that they tried to make the best decision for us. Thank you.
I'll continue that thought. I don't think there was any ill will, that they did what they thought was best. And I can't swear that I would have brought anything new to the table, but I do have a track record of finding solutions, asking the right questions, talking to people tirelessly until I find out what else could have been done. Was there a creative lease option? I don't know. I'm not going to say that there was, but from a business standpoint, the thing that drives me a bit crazy is that we gave away that land and got nothing. who does that in business? You never give away something and get nothing in return. I know we have the promise, maybe a handshake, I don't know, that they're never going to build on that property, build high-density houses or apartments. We all know that doesn't work in politics. In reality, Rockwall gets offered enough money, or however someone comes in, that could very easily turn into apartments. I've never heard anything of a contract or any true written legal guarantee what they're going to do with that property, and that's, to me, the biggest objection. We had negotiation power, we had 4,000 acres, we let it go, and we got nothing in return except a promise. So, to me, I think it's a bad deal. The other thing it does, it kind of cuts off other opportunities for us. That creates a void of land that maybe we could have been able to deal with now, but we have this gap, and now that property is out of touch for us as well. So I think that makes it a bad deal.
Mr. Bloom, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Okay. Just want to say again, thank you all for coming here. Obviously, I have a lot of passion for the fire service, public safety, but I'm not a one-trick pony. This, moving forward after the election on May 5th, I don't expect it to be the super smooth transition. We have some people on the council who are passionate about their beliefs and believe that they got here, in many cases, totally opposing views as mine, for all the right reasons. So just coming in doesn't solve everything. In fact, it makes the role of the citizens even more important. And I think the role of government will be to continue to lead those discussions, and instead of jamming decisions down the throats. I do think surveys can be a benefit. I think councils can be a benefit of representatives from all over this place. And I would like to utilize all of that. I want to end a lot of the work with other people to end so much of this decisiveness that's never been in this community before. If you look back at the election last year, or whenever Mr. Steinhagen came on board, do you feel like this city's better today than it was on that day? I don't, personally. I think there's a lot of controversy. There's certainly no public safety. There's no plan. The taxes haven't gone down, but we're still spending that money. We're just not getting the services we agreed we wanted. So if you vote for me, I promise to work with the existing council, the existing issues, and move forward in a way that I hope would make everyone feel proud to be here. Thank you.
This is a commitment to serve. I'm not in it for the glory. I just want to help the residents help themselves. No hidden agendas. I value my neighbors, all of them, and I'm here to listen, understand, solve problems, and dream up a plan with you. McLendon-Chisholm have our own character, as do our citizens. Let's build on that. It's our pearl within the oyster. It started with a bit of grit. Open spaces, rural heritage, celebrate the path and the people that came before us and honor them with preserving the spirit of our city. I do want to listen, I do want to help you solve, and I think that we need a plan going forward, something that we can all invest in and that we can all live in harmony with. And thank you for your time.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and taking the time to sit through these questions and to listen to all the various opinions that are here. I would be remiss tonight if I didn't tell you that, this is bittersweet running here, because I'm stepping down from the fire department so that I can talk about fire issues, okay? And when I step down, I'm going to leave one of my best friends and somebody I really look up to, and that's Chief Jones. He is a leader who has led this department. He leads people, and he really makes them come together and work. Now, I will tell you that I'm stepping down so that I can work for the people and not just for the fire department. I want to be able to listen to what everybody's doing and take action on that. You've heard a lot from me tonight, but what I'm going to tell you is that I'm a motivator, I'm a leader, and I'm a can-do guy. and I think you should vote for me, and if you do, I'll make it worth it. Thank you.
Same thing. Thank you for everybody coming out. Thank you for the Republican Party for putting this on. You know, healthy debates are good. You know, this is what it's all about, is being able to express your views and your opinions and stepping out there. Mr. Larkin and Mr. Bloom, applaud you for doing that. You know, it's not not everybody goes and puts their foot out in front of the public, and you're putting your neck out there. The last 5 months, leading the charge of trying to figure out the fire rescue, I've put my neck out there, but it's something that needs to be done. And I think Mayor Moody had said at one time, "Hey, until you walk in my shoes, you don't know what it feels like." And that's so. Give consideration that just for Mr. Larkin, Mr. Bloom, to run up against the current council. Then we have, of course, my friend Melody that is here with us, that is trying to keep the rural atmosphere going in the open spaces. And that's what I'm for. I'm going to continue to charge down that path and continue that commitment that I have. And I'm going to continue to try to work with the MCVFD to figure out what can we do. But if not, I'm going to figure out a way to have guaranteed fire protection for our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out to this, and I hope that you feel informed. I hope you know even better than when you came in who you want to vote for. I hope they impressed you in the way you wanted them to, and this is something that we feel strongly about, and as a Republican Party, to bring all of these facts out. And I appreciate your attendance, and I appreciate your enthusiasm, and you go vote.